Hey guys, it's Ryan here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're doing our TBR video for the month of March. Now, March doesn't really usually have a theme for me. I think I usually use April as the sports month, but this time I thought, March Madness, let's do some sports stuff this month. So I will be doing mostly just a basketball series, and everything else will just be generic, kind of random stuff that I feel like doing. So I don't really have too much to say here. I did reach 1,400 subscribers, so I really appreciate that. Thank you guys very much for watching and for enjoying the channel and for subscribing. If you guys have any thoughts or any ways in which I can do better, please let me know down in the comments and I'll do my best, because, I'm to the point where maybe I should have started making money off YouTube at some point already, and I haven't. And it doesn't really bother me, but I am getting to the point where I'm realizing, hey, I'm spending a lot of time doing this and there's no monetary benefit, right? And so I'm happy to continue to do so, but it is getting a little bit difficult sometimes to really find that motivation completely in some ways. So let me know if there's any ways that I can change how I do YouTube in order to make it much more accessible for you guys and much more interesting to watch, right? So that's it for that, I guess. Let's move on to the stuff that I have left over from last month. There wasn't too much, to be honest with you, and some of it I had basically just assumed that it would stay as a leftover, so I wasn't going to really read it anyways. But there are a few things here. So first of all, I do want to finish reading the Doc Savage novel here, The Man of Bronze. I'm about halfway through it, so I really just need to push through a day or two, and really I'll finish it quite quickly because it's a pretty easy read. So I'll probably carry that with me to class and read it before and after or during breaks, right? So that's probably what I'm going to do there. In terms of my non-fiction goals, I've been reading this, but I haven't really touched it all month. So I need to get back to it. I need to give it a reread of the first 40 pages or so that I had read already, and then keep going through it. The thing is that this is a bit too similar to some of the work that I have to read for class, not because it's about UFOs, but because it is a nonfiction kind of like case study type story, right? And so it feels a bit annoying to have to read that for work, basically for class, and then come home and read this for fun, because it just ends up being not that fun, to be honest with you. And so I'm not sure if I'll read around, get around to reading more of this, but I do want to push at least 20 pages through the month. Maybe I should have just switched over to the one I have to read for class and make that my goal-attaining nonfiction book. But I feel like that's cheating, so I don't know, whatever. But we'll see. So that's it for that one. I do want to also finish reading through volumes 8 and 9 of Spy Family. This is what finishes up one of the arcs that we have here. And so I want to finish through it because I'm at volume 13 already, and I haven't really read through too much of it. So I want to get around to reading more of it. There's volume 9 and volume 8 there. So that's it for that one. There really isn't too much to say. I mean, this next arc is like the cruise ship arc or something like that, and it seems to be a pretty long one, so it should be fun to read through all of it, and I'm excited about that. But, Spy Family is great. Everyone knows that. There really isn't too much else to say about it. Moving on from that, the last thing that I have here on my leftovers, where there's two things, but one of them I keep in my backpack for when I'm waiting for class, so I don't have it with me right now, but that would be Dragonero, this Italian comic book that's been pretty good, actually. I've enjoyed it, but the one I wanted to talk about here to finish off here is Cutie Honey. So I actually want to finish reading this by the end of May, or maybe we're like halfway through May, so I still have a few months to do it, and that's because this is a sci-fi story, right? So in May, I usually do sci-fi related stuff, and I want to have read through most of it by that point so that I can push through it in May and give you guys a review for it, since it's been quite a few years since I had this in my collection, and I haven't really given it a go, right? So yeah, but I did start reading it. I'm about 30 or something pages into it, and it's been pretty interesting. The thing is that the setup is kind of weird, because it's like Cutie Honey awakes and she realizes that she's like not herself anymore, and then she moves on from that and goes and gets enrolled in a school where she's the only beautiful person there. Everyone else is quite ugly, and that's fun and interesting, but it's like kind of ridiculous, and I'm not really understanding what that has to do with anything else, right? But maybe this is where she meets her villain characters and then moves on to the rest of the story. I'm not really sure, but I hope to at least get through 100 or so pages of that this month. So that's it for the catch-up stuff that I have to do from last month, the leftovers from last month. Now let's move on to, stuff that I want to read this month and hopefully finish through this month. So it's mostly going to be comic books and manga. I'm not going to have any novels here because I already have a few that I have to read, and I have some stuff for school that I have to read. And I also want to read some magazines that I'm going to be acquiring in the next couple of weeks, right? So I don't want to give myself too much novel reading. So let's just jump into it here. In terms of manga here, there's quite a few things. So the one I mentioned from last month was Las Guias, and I do want to finish reading through the 2 volumes that I have left of it, and hopefully I'll be able to decide if I want to continue reading it or not at that point, because I didn't love the first issue or the first volume as much as I thought I would. And so I want to see if that normalizes throughout these 2 books, and hopefully it does, so that I can finish collecting it, because I really love the art style, I like the premise, I like the character designs. I just think that the way that the story is unfolding is maybe not for me. But that might just be because of the fact that it's the first volume, right? And the author himself has not really figured out, how is this the right way to do this, right? So we'll see, but that's one of the manga that I want to read through this month. There's a few other ones that I want to do kind of similarly, not because I want to know if I'm going to like them or not, but because I want to get through them so that I can justify buying the next volumes. And the second one of those is Witch's War Book 2. This is the Mexican edition. Well, actually, it's the Spanish edition, but it's sold in Mexico at Mexican prices. So this is about 189 pesos, which is about $8 for us US, but in Mexico, that's about the same as saying like an $18 manga, right? Which is a bit expensive, but thanks to the power of the US dollar, it's pretty cheap for me. So yeah, but I just want to know what's going on here. The 4th volume just became available in Mexico, and I want to pick it up, and I feel kind of weird buying it if I haven't caught up to the rest of it, right? At least in this case, because this is a relatively new series that I don't necessarily know, hey, I'm gonna really like this or not, right? So that's it for that one. That's just basically a female version of Record of Ragnarok. If you're a fan of Record of Ragnarok and you're bad that they don't have any female characters, just read Witch's War. It is available from Yen Press nowadays, and it's a pretty good edition. It does have a color page at the front, so that's pretty nice, right? Continuing on in a similar fashion, I just caught up to Chain Soldier, so I want to read through it. This is issues 9 and 10, or volumes 9 and 10, and this should collect the rest of the Azuma arc and then the beginnings of the next arc, which should be nice because it's been a while since I reviewed an arc in the series, and I'm looking forward to doing so. So not much to say about that one either. Chain Soldier is awesome. I really love it. I love the way that the ecchi actually combines and makes sense throughout the story, because it is a reward system for the character, right? And so it's basically like a progression fantasy where instead of leveling up at the end, you get like a horning kind of situation happening to the main character. And I think it's good. I think that system is very well thought out. I think that the author has done a great job at that, and especially because you get author's notes at the end of the volume where the author tells you, hey, this is what I wanted to do here. I thought that this would be valuable because of this and that. And so you understand the process, and that makes it much more interesting and much more valuable. And you don't fall into that, like, this is unnecessary fan service trap where it's like, yeah, obviously, but every story is unnecessary. So if you don't like fan service, just go read something else. Stop complaining about this story, right? Because you understand why the creator is doing it, and it makes sense within the story because that is the setup of the story, right? So I really like Chain Soldier for that reason, and I really want to read more of it. So yeah, there's a few other things before the big piece that I want to talk about here. So here's Tengen Hero Wars, sorry. This is the second book. It's the only 2 that are going to be released here by Titan Manga because they decided to stop licensing it, or I don't know exactly what happened. I either assume they licensed only 2 volumes, they licensed the whole series, and when it didn't sell, they decided to cancel it, which I think is crazy. It's a very sound business decision. It's a very shitty publishing decision for fans of the series, because that means that if they decided to cancel their publishing of it, that means that whoever is a fan of this just got screwed over because no one else is going to buy the license off of them, or they won't be allowed to for a certain amount of time, right? And so this might never get a continuation at all in the US, right? Licenses don't get rescued that easily, right? And the other option is that Japan said, hey, you're not doing a good job at this, so we don't want you to do it anymore. And if that's the case, which I think it's very unlikely it is, because otherwise they wouldn't be publishing more manga. If that's the case, it's the same kind of situation as earlier, but from a different person. And so maybe it's more justifiable if Japan was like, hey, we don't want you to publish this anymore because you're bad at it. Like, that makes more sense than Titan being like, well, it didn't sell, so fuck you guys, right? That makes it a little bit more understandable in my opinion. But that's it for that one. I just want to read it just so I know, where it left off, and maybe I'll read it via scans if they're not going to publish it anymore. But I doubt I will. I probably will end up selling this because what's the point of having incomplete manga, right? So we'll see. But it is what it is. Now, finally, the stuff that I really wanted to focus on in March here is Slam Dunk. So here we have the Takehiko Inoue kind of collection style that Panini Manga in Mexico does, which is these like French flap type things. They're kind of based on the Naoki Urasawa versions. And so this is volume 1, and this is volume 2, and volume 3, and volume 4, and volume 5, and I think I have 2 more. Here's volume 6, and a volume 7. And I think this is the only ones I bought at the time because I was like, okay, let me just get all of the ones that have red on them, and then the next ones I think are blue or green or something like that. And I assumed that that was due to dividing it up by arc. I think it's actually divided by who the main player plays for, and so that might not be the best way to divide it, but I did want to read through this during March because I think it'd be fun to do a March Madness kind of situation, reading basketball manga. So there you go. Those are kind of my main reading goals for manga. In terms of comic books, I have 3 comic books that I really want to focus on. So we have Trials of Ultraman. This is the second Ultraman series. I am like halfway through it, as you guys can see, but it's been a while since I read it, so I want to come back to it and get through it and finish it. I bought this 2 days ago, and I want to read through it because I love Enrico Marini's artwork, and I think it'll look really great. So I just want to read through this and kind of, enjoy. And I don't really like Batman, to be honest with you. I mean, I like him in the concept of like, Batman's the biggest superhero ever, but he's not really my favorite. I find that there's other more interesting superheroes like Superman and Spider-Man and stuff like that. But this is the only work that Enrico Marini has done with a DC character, so this is what I'm going to be reading because I love Enrico Marini's artwork, right? And to finish off the comic book stuff here, I want to read through Invincible. Now, I can't remember how many arcs of Invincible I had gotten through. I think I finished up to issue 42, which I think is the first 2 arcs. There's another arc, and after that ends at 65, issue 65, and that means that I have to read through the back half of collection 4, all of collection 5, and then the first third of collection 6. Maybe that's the first half of collection 6 there. So that's what I'm focusing on here. This should be more or less what was covered in season 2 of Invincible, maybe some early parts of season 3. I'm not really sure, but that's all I really want to focus on this month. It seems like a lot, but the good thing about manga and comic books is that they're really easily read, right? So you can kind of sit down and read 2 or 3 of them in about an hour or so, and that doesn't end up being too costly in terms of time. So I'll probably end up reading more than this, but I don't know, right? Because it's kind of unclear how my time is going to be divided this coming month, especially because I'm supposed to have spring break in the middle of the month, but I was also supposed to go to Mexico at that time, and I'm not really sure that I will anymore. And so I might have more or less time than I thought previously. And if I have to travel to Houston for whatever reason instead of going to Mexico, I'm not really sure how I'm going to juggle all of that, right? So we'll see how it goes, but hopefully I get to read through most of this. At least the stuff that I want to read for this month. I don't mind letting the leftovers go on for longer. So we'll see, but that's it for my TBR. What are you guys reading this month? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys later.